From the most well-preserved mummy ever discovered to an entire secret city buried in Turkey, here are 10 amazing discoveries made by construction workers. Lady Dai. Meet one of the most well-preserved mummies in the world. Xin Zhui, also known as Lady Dai, perished in the year 163 BC and was not found again until 1971. When researchers found her, they couldn't believe that her hair was still intact, her skin was soft to touch, and she still had blood sitting inside her veins. In fact, researchers discovered that she possessed type A blood. This is something that is pretty much never found out by scientists. Mummies typically don't have any blood left in their bodies. After 2,000 years, Lady Dai was in pretty good shape, all things considered. She lived back in the Han Dynasty of China and was likely the wife of a high-ranking official. Testing revealed that she died at the relatively young age of 50 as a result of probably a heart attack brought on by an entire life of being obese, never exercising, and having an overindulgent diet. Researchers don't know much about her life, but from studying her remains, they found that she was definitely very unhealthy and lazy, which is unsurprising for those of high society at the time in China. As for the discovery itself, it was made while workers were digging near an air raid shelter. They basically stumbled upon it completely by accident and were shocked to find the hidden underground crypt with over 1,000 precious artifacts inside. Other than the mummy herself, there were toiletries, carved wooden figures, and even a meal that had been laid out 2,000 years ago for Xin Zhui to enjoy in the afterlife. Secret City. An ancient secret city was discovered back in 1963 when a Turkish man was trying to make some home improvements. This happened in the region of Cappadocia in Turkey, and it was a total accident. The guy doing home improvements knocked down a wall in his basement, and what he found behind the wall was a secret room. Upon entering the secret room, the man then found an underground tunnel that led directly into a hidden city that nobody had known about until then. It had sat totally undisturbed, completely buried under the hills for thousands of years. The city is now known as Derinkuyu, and it is quite impressive. At its peak, the city could have held around 20,000 people, including much livestock, hordes of food supplies, and much more. There are about 18 stories beneath the earth, kind of like an inverted apartment building. Subterranean tunnels stretch for miles and miles under the ground, even connecting to other secret settlements farther away. Some of the rooms include a chapel, a school, several communal living areas, stables for horses, and kitchens. As reported by the Daily Mail, the underground city was likely created during the Byzantine era, sometime between 780 and 1180 AD. This city was probably used almost like a giant bomb shelter to protect the residents from either natural disasters or destruction from war. There were about 600 entrances for people to come and go, along with large stone doors that close off the city from the inside in the case of intruders. How such a massive city could have ever been lost and forgotten remains a mystery. Would you like to live in an underground city? It would be really cool to have a massive cave system to play around in, but you would probably get tired of the artificial lighting eventually and pine for the sun's warmth. Let me know how you'd feel about living beneath the surface in the comments below. Then be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because there are tons of new videos coming out very soon right here on Talltanic. Mammoth Tooth. It's hard to imagine, but just 10,000 years ago, San Francisco did not look much like it does today. There was no bridge, there was no island prison, and there were no hippies or tech companies. But there were saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, and woolly mammoths. In fact, San Francisco would have looked more like the Serengeti 10,000 years ago. There is no better evidence of the prehistoric history of San Francisco than a recent discovery made by some city workers. It all happened when the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority discovered a giant mammoth tooth and part of a mammoth jaw while on a job site. The tooth was actually found by a crane operator roughly 110 feet, 33 meters below the surface of the construction site. As reported by NBC Bay Area, everyone is very happy about the discovery. It's a very important piece of San Francisco's early history, and it shows that there is so much hiding just beneath the ground. The tooth was preserved extremely well, and it's estimated to be around 11,000 years old. Apparently, the company that found the tooth actually donated it to the California Academy of Sciences, where it can be studied properly by professionals. But what do you think? If you found a woolly mammoth tooth while on the job, would you pocket it or donate it? King Richard III. In In a parking lot in England, the bones of King Richard III were found just a few years ago. After doing some DNA testing, British scientists are 100% convinced that the skeleton found is indeed the former king who was killed during the Battle of Bosworth Field many years ago in 1485. But what in the world was the king doing in an uneven grave covered over by a parking lot? Well, during the inspection of the remains, scientists discovered a lot. They found battle wounds and signs of scoliosis, which could mean the king was really a hunchbacked villain just like in the stories. As for the location of the grave, it was initially lost to history. The skeleton of King Richard III was found in the remains of what would have once been the city's Greyfriars Friary. But the thing is that after hundreds of years of demolition and rebuilding, the old friary had been lost to time and paved over as a parking lot. Plus, there had been stories claiming that after defeat, King Richard's body had been dug up and thrown into a river nearby. It didn't seem like anyone cared to find him. Research also showed that the king suffered a miserable and violent death. He had at least 10 wounds, 8 of them on his head and 2 of them on his body, and they were all inflicted very close to the time of his demise. At least 2 of the attacks to his head could have been fatal, and it leads researchers to believe that he probably lost his helmet in the middle of the battle. They also believe that Richard's corpse was grossly mistreated after he died, with evidence of humiliation and injuries. Apparently, it doesn't always pay to be king. Roman barracks. While working on a new metro station, construction workers unearthed a giant Roman barracks from the 2nd century AD, back when the infamous Emperor Hadrian was in power. It's such an incredible find that Rome is going to be making their very first archaeological station at the site itself. The new station will be built along with archaeologists to properly preserve the artifacts. Researchers believe that the newly found site would have housed the Emperor's Praetorian Guard. Praetorian Guard was created by the first emperor of Rome, Augustus, and they served as the personal bodyguards to the emperor, including in the ruins, which, by the way, cover nearly 10,000 square feet, are 39 rooms with one very long hallway running through them. This is exactly what a Roman barracks would have looked like at the time it was made. But that's not all they found. According to the BBC, researchers found human bones, bracelets, bronze coins, and all kinds of other great relics. As for the metro station itself, the station was named Amba Aradam after the Italian victory against Ethiopian troops in the 1936 Abyssinian War. The station is scheduled to open sometime in 2020, but we'll see about that. Giant Anaconda. Archaeological discoveries are great. They are even more exciting when they are made by accident at a construction site. But what about when construction workers find a terrifying and deadly animal? This is exactly what happened when Brazilian workers discovered a 30-foot, 9-meter anaconda just hanging out on the job site. This happened back in 2016, and locals claim that the slithering serpent was at least 33 feet long and weighed almost 1,000 pounds. Of course, this could be grossly exaggerated, but the photographs of the huge anaconda being held in the air by the crane is very hard to dispute. Of course, the internet community got extremely angry when they saw how the construction workers removed the huge snake from their worksite. It apparently died during the whole fiasco, and many people condemned the construction workers and claimed that they inadvertently killed the huge snake just to get a couple of cool pictures. But of course, none of this is substantiated. The only fact here is that a giant snake was found in Brazil by construction workers, and I'm glad I was not there to see it. Time capsule from 1894. When workers in North Carolina were dismantling a Confederate monument in 2020, they stumbled upon a time capsule that had been buried at the base of the monument. This happened after parts of the statue were taken down by Black Lives Matter protesters in June. The time capsule they found dates all the way back to 1894, and inside the capsule were many very interesting relics, including some buttons that belonged to the Confederate general Robert E. Lee. The time capsule was nothing but a rusty metal box, and it was pried open to reveal the general's coat buttons along with a strand of hair from his horse. Other relics included some items that might be considered controversial. There was money found, Confederate flags, songbooks, and a few other artifacts that had been damaged by all that time stuffed in a metal box. According to Daily Mail, they also found news clippings from May 25, 1894 that contained a list of all the things placed inside the capsule and even an old Bible. The capsule was opened by archaeologists and conservators from the NC Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. They had to use a hammer and stake to get the box open, and most of the items they pulled out were covered in a thick layer of gunk and mud. The monument that the capsule was found under represented a group of Confederate soldiers, including a statue of a Confederate artillery soldier holding a gun, a Confederate infantry, and a Confederate cavalryman. There was also 2 large naval cannons on either side of the monument. Hidden treasure. It does not get much better than discovering hidden treasure. Construction workers in Spain became the luckiest crew on Earth when they accidentally discovered roughly 1,300 pounds of bronze and silver Roman coins. This was a legitimate treasure trove, undoubtedly worth an absolute fortune. The coins had never been used, and they were buried inside of special ceramic containers that were utilized extensively during ancient times. What's really weird is that the coins were only buried about 3 feet under the ground. According to the Seville Archaeological Museum, the coins likely date back to the 4th century. They believe that no other coins from Roman days have been found in the area and have said that the current value of the coins is incalculable. And that makes sense. How do you put value on a buried treasure of Roman coins? It's likely that the coins were set aside as pay for soldiers and civil servants. Most of the coins have the faces of the Roman emperors Constantine and Maximian on the backs of them. After the discovery, construction work was halted while archaeologists determined if there were any other artifacts in the area. Unfortunately for the construction workers, it is highly unlikely that they will see any profit from their discovery. Although, who's to say that 1 or 2 of the workers didn't stuff a few of those coins into their pockets? Hopefully at least one person walked away a little richer. Dinosaur egg fossils. Construction workers in the Chinese city of Heiyuan have found one of the coolest treasures ever. It all happened in the middle of some major road repair when the workers discovered 43 fossilized dinosaur eggs in the middle of the day. The construction workers stopped what they were doing, climbed down into the ditch, and began to dig out the fossils. 19 of the dinosaur eggs came out intact, with the largest one measuring roughly 5 inches, 13 centimeters in diameter. Of course, proper researchers eventually showed up and the construction was halted while an archaeological investigation could be carried out. What's really interesting is that these are not the first dinosaur eggs found by the city. It's actually the city that has the largest number of dinosaur eggs in the world. The city even calls itself the home of dinosaurs and has a Guinness World Record for having the largest collection of dinosaur eggs at their museum as of 2004. Considering this happened in 2015, their collection has gotten even larger. In total, almost 17,000 dino eggs have been uncovered in the city since 1996. The first group of eggs were also found at a construction site, but that time it was some children playing who made the discovery. Most of the eggs housed in the museum's collection belong to a unique duck-billed dinosaur that roamed the earth around 89 million years ago, but we still don't know if these newest eggs belong to the same extinct animal. Rare spiders. Last on the list for today is something kind of terrifying. A rare spider was discovered at a construction site in the Texas town of San Antonio, and the discovery caused a $15 million highway project to be temporarily shut down while federal and state officials figured out how to continue construction without disrupting the natural habitat of the rare spider. The spider is a bracken bat cave mesh weaver, and it's an endangered species that lives in caves. This type of spider has no eyes and it is basically invisible. According to a spokesperson from the Texas Department of Transportation, this was only the second time the species of spider have been spotted in over 30 years. Not only that, but it's only the second time the spider has been seen by human eyes. The first time was in 1980 on a piece of property not far from the construction site. The project could be on hold inevitably after the spider was found, which has angered the residents of the North San Antonio Hills as they want the construction to go on. What do you think? Is a spider worth all the trouble? Which of these incredible discoveries would you like to find? Any that you wouldn't? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching and be sure to come back soon for another fun video.